When you think of 80s synth pop music, you probably picture neon lights, upbeat tempos, and powerful electric bass lines. And for the most part, you would be right. But in 1982, when the band Yazoo released their debut album, Upstairs at Eric's, they included a track that completely defied the genre. While the world was dancing to their upbeat hits like Only You, Don't Go, and Situation, an atmospheric and, in my opinion, beautifully honest track sat lurking somewhere in the album. I'm talking about Winter Kills. Today we're examining the lyrics, the story, and the sheer emotional weight of a song that is favored by fans, but often overlooked by the casual listener of 80s music. If we're going to understand Winter Kills, we have to look at the unique dynamic of Yazoo. Vince Clarke, the synth pop mastermind, had recently left Depeche Mode, and to my understanding was eager to experiment with more soulful and vocal-driven electronic music. He was having a hard time tracking down a singer with a soulful voice in Basildon, Essex, the town where he spent much of his youth and remained in after leaving Depeche Mode. He already had the song Only You conjured up, which we know became a hit, and his instincts told him it was a soulful tune that needed a soulful singer. When referencing the search in Basildon, Clarke states, "There was nothing there. There were council houses, but there was no grass in our garden. There was no cinema. There was nothing. It was all just about housing people." Then he saw fellow resident Alison Moyet's ad in the British music weekly Melody Maker. Moyet was actually looking for musicians for a rootsy blues band to back her up. Clarke answered the ad and instead asked her to sing on a song that he wrote, the song being Only You. This was intended to be a one-off project, but as we know, they ended up making 2 albums together. Coincidentally, they were somewhat familiar with each other. Moyet had already sung in several bands, including the punk group The Vandals with Clarke's friend Robert Marlowe. Vince Clarke already knew that Moyet had an amazing voice. The hit Only You was recorded, and as we know, did quite well. But now that we have some of the backstory, let's go back to the track at hand, Winter Kills. As Alison Moyet explains, "I wrote this when I was fresh to Yazoo. There was part of me that felt so alien in the world that everyone else seemed foreign. I was fascinated and somewhat appalled by the notion of romance." Now let's jump to the opening lines of the song itself, and then we'll cut back to Moyet's explanation. "Green in your love on bright days. You grew sunblind, you thought me unkind. To remind you how winter kills." Romances, when new or green, as you can say, can start off with that naive optimism, where you're kind of blinded by the warmth of that initial infatuation. But Moyet acts as the harsh reality check that reminds her partner how winter kills. Alright, back to Moyet's explanation. "I felt like I mimicked social mores. I was performing my connections and all the time wondering how people became what they were becoming. The common and garden freaks. It was those that gravitated keenly to me that bothered me the most. They inspired my resentment." Very transparent and honest. Now back to the next part of the song. "Lost in daydreams, you drove too fast and got nowhere. You rode on half fare when you got too scared. How winter kills." Gotta love Alison Moyet's songwriting here. Driving too fast in a relationship implies the impulsive and reckless way one acts in a new romance. Alright, let's cut back to Moyet and hear more from her explanation. "I was a tricky misfit who rucked readily. I kept intimacy at a comfortable distance. Crushes inspired my ire. Winter kills is Callous Alf." Alf being Alison Moyet's longtime nickname. Let's finish off the lyrics. "Tear at me, searching for weaker seams. Pain in your eyes makes me cruel, makes me spiteful. Tears are delightful. Welcome your nightfall. How winter kills. I'll tear at you, searching for weaker seams. How winter kills." It's a little dark, a little cynical, but the honesty and transparency we get from Moyet is something that I think is just in the best songs out there. Well, Thank you for tuning in to Still Havens. Let me know in the comments what you think of this song. Beautifully cynical? A brutally honest part of the human condition? Maybe a little of both? But wait, don't go. There might be some dumb bloopers after this. Unless you've got a bad connection. In which case, it's only you. Because in my room, it's always midnight. I'll stop one day. I can't help it. How winter stills. When you think of 80s synth pop music, you probably think of... But in 1982, when the band Yazoo he was having a hard time tracking down a singer with a soulful voice in Basildon, Texas. Then he saw fellow resident Alison Moyet's ad in the British Weekly. As Alison Moyet explains, I wrote this when I was fresh to Yazoo. Relationship... You know, the song has so much... Yazoo...